Have you ever imagined finding a hidden diary, written by a ballerina who only danced under the light of the moon? Tonight, you will hear her final pages, and perhaps discover secrets that speak directly to your heart. The book rested in silence, hidden in an old drawer, its navy blue cover fading, the golden letters already worn by time. When opened, a faint scent of aged paper escaped, as if it were the very memory of the night captured in words. Each line seemed to vibrate, as though the ink still carried the distant echo of music that only the ballerina could hear. And so, her pages began to reveal the life of someone who had found in the moon not just companionship, but also the stage of all her dreams. No one truly knew who she was. Some called her the ghost of midnight, while others believed she was no more than a legend invented by the elders of the small town. But in the hearts of those who dared to look at the sky on nights of the full moon, there was always a peculiar sensation, as if a light, almost invisible figure glided between the shadows, moving in perfect harmony with the silver glow that spread across the sleeping world. She needed no audience, no applause. Her performance existed in secrecy, meant only for herself and for the moon that bathed her in its glow. The diary described her very first night of dance. She had been a girl who always felt different, carrying silences too heavy during the day, too timid to reveal her true strength. But as soon as the sun disappeared and the sky dressed itself with stars, something inside her changed. Her feet became light, her hands knew how to move without hesitation, and her body discovered a path to express emotions that words could never contain. The moon became her confidant, her guardian, the only one capable of understanding the secrets she carried in her soul. In every page there was an intimate confession. She wrote about the silence of empty streets, the soft chill that touched her skin, and the mystery of feeling truly alive only when the world was asleep. She confessed that her steps came to her naturally, as though whispered by the night wind. She wrote that the moon did not simply illuminate her, but called to her, inviting her to dance as if it were part of an invisible orchestra. The rustling of leaves, the distant murmur of a river, even the flutter of an owl's wings, all became music for her movements. As the pages turned, the intensity grew. She wrote of the freedom that pulsed through her body with each spin beneath the open sky, her heartbeat becoming a secret drum. She described the sensation of dissolving into space, of no longer belonging to her body, of becoming pure light and movement. She never danced during the day, afraid the magic would vanish in sunlight. She believed the enchantment belonged only to the mystery of night, to the dark veil that concealed the world and left her alone with the moon. On that secret stage, her essence bloomed. Yet within her words there was also a trace of sadness. A longing to be seen, to share her dance, shadowed by the fear that discovery would shatter the spell forever. So she made the moon her eternal audience, imagining that each ray of light was a silent gaze, watching, understanding, never judging, only welcoming every gesture with tenderness. To her, the moon was more than a distant star, it was a confidant, a friend, an everlasting companion. Still, the ballerina wrote about hidden secrets. She confessed that every dance was also a wish, a prayer to find peace within herself. As she twirled, she imagined her sorrows breaking away from her shoulders, floating into the night until they dissolved into the darkness. When she stretched her arms toward the sky, she felt she touched something greater than life itself, an invisible force that embraced her and cradled her. The final pages carried a deeper tone. They felt like a farewell, as if she knew her nights were numbered. Yet there was no fear, only serenity. Each phrase became a celebration of surrender, a courage to live fully even if only for a few fleeting moments. "If these are to be my final lines," she wrote, "let it be known that I danced with all of my soul. And as long as the moon exists, a part of me will continue to dance with it, unseen, eternal." When the diary closed, the silence grew heavier, but it was not empty silence. It was silence filled with meaning. The ballerina had transformed her solitude into art, her secret into beauty, her night into performance. And even without applause, she had reached what so many seek their whole lives, the feeling of belonging, the certainty of having lived true to herself. Every word read became an invitation to an inner journey. Because deep down, we all have a hidden dance, something we reveal only when the world is not watching. We all hold secret pages written in silence, waiting for the right moment to be found. The ballerina's story was not hers alone, it was a reflection of all who have ever longed to be free, to create, to exist in fullness away from the eyes of the world. When you imagine her dance under the moonlight, your body begins to soften. Your feet grow lighter, your heart steadier, your breathing calm. Her every movement becomes an image that soothes, a memory that lulls. The mind finds rest in the slow sway of her spins, and sleep approaches like an irresistible invitation. For in the end, the true magic of the ballerina's final pages is not only in the words themselves, but in the effect they leave behind, the gentle urge to close your eyes and surrender to the invisible dance of the night. Close your eyes for a moment and allow the world around you to fade into silence. Breathe in slowly, filling your lungs with calmness, and exhale gently, releasing the weight of the day. Let every breath guide you toward a softer place inside yourself, where time flows like a quiet river and the rush of thoughts begins to dissolve into the stillness of night. Imagine that with each inhale you draw in serenity, and with each exhale you let go of everything that no longer belongs to you. The air feels cooler, lighter, almost like the soft touch of a velvet curtain brushing against your skin. And in this moment, there is nothing to demand your attention, nothing to hurry you forward. There is only the soothing rhythm of your own breathing, rising and falling, like gentle waves against the shore. Now, allow yourself to picture a path unfolding beneath your feet, a path illuminated by silver light spilling down from a patient moon. The ground feels steady, familiar, safe. Each step you take is unhurried, as if the earth itself were inviting you to move at the pace of peace. With every step, tension leaves your body. Your shoulders soften, your hands loosen, your chest expands with the relief of quiet freedom. You are walking deeper into a place where the night is not something to fear, but something that embraces you, like an old friend who has waited for your return. As you continue along this path, notice how the air carries faint sounds that feel almost like whispers. The distant murmur of leaves, the hush of invisible wings gliding overhead, the soft rhythm of your own heartbeat echoing in perfect time. These are not noises to disturb you, but gentle reminders that you are part of something greater, something calm, something eternal. Every sound, every breath, every moment pulls you further into a sanctuary where nothing can harm you, where nothing rushes you, where you are completely free to rest. The light of the moon stretches across the landscape, painting it with hues of silver and shadow. It caresses the edges of the trees, turning their branches into delicate lace against the sky. It touches the surface of the water, making it shimmer like glass broken into 1,000 tiny stars. It rests upon your face, cool and reassuring, as though the moon herself has chosen to guide you tonight. You are not alone on this path. The moon walks with you, steady and luminous, carrying a wisdom older than time, whispering to you without words that everything is exactly as it should be. With each breath, you notice how your body becomes lighter. The heaviness that once pulled at your muscles seems to melt away, as if carried off by an invisible tide. Your chest rises and falls with ease, your thoughts slow into soft ripples, your entire being begins to drift into balance. It is as though you are learning once more how to rest, how to be still, how to exist without effort. And in that stillness, there is an opening, a doorway into a world that belongs entirely to you, a world where peace and imagination meet, where every worry is left behind. Take a moment to notice the warmth within your chest, a small light glowing quietly, pulsing in harmony with the night around you. This light is your calm, your center, your safe place. It expands gently with every breath, filling your body with comfort, spreading to your arms, your legs, the tips of your fingers and toes. With this light, you are wrapped in safety. With this light, you are free. It is not a flame that burns, but a glow that soothes, the gentle glow of self-belonging, of being exactly where you need to be. The path stretches onward, but you are not in a hurry. Each step is slow, effortless, almost dreamlike. The landscape shifts softly, like watercolor on paper touched by rain. The boundaries between earth and sky blur, leaving only the sensation of floating, of moving without resistance, of being carried by something greater than yourself. You realize that you no longer need to walk, the ground holds you gently, as though it has always known you would pass this way, and now it wants nothing more than to give you rest. The moon remains your quiet companion, her light surrounding you like a soft veil. She does not ask anything of you, she does not demand performance or effort. She simply exists beside you, shining, offering comfort with her presence. And in her presence, you begin to feel a calm certainty rising in your heart, that you are safe, that you are whole, that you are exactly where you belong. The moon becomes a reminder that even in the darkest night there is always light to guide you, always a hand stretched out in silence, always a promise that you are never lost. And as this awareness deepens, your breathing finds a slower rhythm, your heartbeat steadies, your mind softens into quiet. Thoughts that once chased one another in endless circles now drift like feathers, floating weightless until they vanish into the stillness of the air. There is no need to hold on to them. You can let them go, trusting that the night will keep you, trusting that the path you walk is leading you only toward rest. This is the gift of the moment. This is the connection that exists between you and the quiet of the world. You are not separate from it, you are part of it. You are the moonlight, you are the stillness, you are the breath rising and falling in perfect harmony with the universe itself. And in that realization, every part of you loosens, every worry fades, every shadow turns into nothing more than gentle darkness that protects and comforts you. So close your eyes more deeply now, and let yourself drift into the embrace of this night. Let the calm wrap around you like a blanket, let the silence rock you like a cradle, let the silver glow of the moon carry you into dreams where peace waits patiently. You have no need to do anything more. Simply rest, simply breathe, simply be. She appeared in the night like a whisper carried by the wind, a figure so delicate it seemed she did not entirely belong to the world. Her light silhouette traced invisible lines through the air, as if each gesture were a secret the moon received in silence. There was no stage, no curtain, no applause. Only the open space of midnight, where the earth became her floor and the starry sky transformed into the dome of a secret theater. There, in the heart of the night, the ballerina revealed herself. Her feet touched the ground with an almost ethereal softness, as though her body carried no weight. With every step, it seemed the earth bent in reverence, allowing her to float instead of merely walk. Her arms moved slowly, drawing invisible trajectories that resembled flowing water, sometimes calm, sometimes deep, always hypnotic. Her hair followed each turn, sketching subtle curves that blended into the air itself. The moon, high in the sky, observed every detail, illuminating her outline with a silver light that made her presence sacred, almost untouchable. It felt as though the entire world had fallen asleep only so that moment could exist. As if the whole night had been created solely to host her dance, and the moon, alone in her vigil, were the only audience worthy of watching. And the moon never looked away, as though she understood the importance of keeping that secret. Her soft glow spread across the ballerina's fair skin, transforming her into a living statue, made of shadow and light at once. To distant eyes, there would be nothing to see. Only darkness, only silence. But to the attentive gaze of the moon, there was a performance no other star could dream of witnessing. The ballerina danced as if every movement were a prayer, every spin a plea, every gesture a thanksgiving for being alive in that very instant. It was dance and confession, art and soul exposed, fragility and strength fused into one body. Her face remained serene, yet her eyes reflected something deeper. They did not seek an audience, nor did they long for recognition. They looked only toward the moon, as though she were a confidant, the only one able to understand the secret language of her movements. And the moon, patient, responded with her glow, brightening whenever the ballerina spun faster, softening when her gestures grew delicate, as if the two were engaged in a dialogue. With every moment, her silhouette seemed to dissolve into space. At times she appeared made of mist, at times of glass, at times of pure light. The wind wrapped around her skirt, lifting it in slow waves that made her appear part of the air itself. There was lightness, yet intensity. There was silence, yet music, an inaudible melody that filled the heart of anyone who dared to imagine the scene. On that invisible stage, the ballerina needed nothing more than the night and the moon. There were no limits, no rules, no boundaries. The entire universe seemed to pause to witness the performance of a single soul expressed in dance. And in that instant, she was no longer just a young woman, but the very embodiment of the night in motion, the personification of mystery transformed into art. The book with its faded blue cover and golden letters worn by time rested quietly in the corner of a silent room, almost abandoned, as if the world itself had conspired to forget it. Yet it seemed to radiate an invisible aura, something beyond its fabric and paper, as though it had been waiting patiently for the precise moment when someone would finally notice it. The cover, marked by the passage of years, still held a discreet dignity, a faint gleam that whispered of its past life. To touch it was not simply to feel old fabric beneath the fingertips, but something that pulsed softly, as though the memories preserved within its pages still breathed, waiting to be awakened. The room around it was wrapped in stillness, the kind of silence that holds weight. Furniture stood frozen beneath a thin veil of dust, and a half-open window allowed the night air to enter in slow breaths. Moonlight poured gently through the opening, falling directly upon the diary as though chosen deliberately. The silver glow of the moon touched the book with care, like a hand guiding attention toward what deserved to be seen. To open that diary was to cross a threshold. Whoever dared to turn its cover felt a wave of nostalgia and peace sweep over them, as if each word within had been written not only to be read, but to comfort the soul. Inside, the pages revealed delicate handwriting, graceful curves formed by a hand that moved with the rhythm of a dancer. Each letter seemed like a step imprinted in ink, as though the ballerina had discovered a second way to perform her art, first with her body, and then with her words. The diary was not merely a record, it was both stage and refuge. It carried within it nights where silence became confession, where loneliness turned into eternity, where fleeting moments stretched far beyond time. Reading it was not like consuming a story, it was like being invited to witness a secret performance captured in lines of ink. Every page seemed to suspend the flow of time. Whoever allowed themselves to linger over the words felt transported into a different world, a world slower, quieter, filled with the hidden beauty of small gestures. The diary breathed with a sweet melancholy, an almost impossible balance between fragility and strength, longing and serenity, silence and invisible music. It was impossible to turn its pages without feeling the gentle weight of life pressing from them, as though each line were a thread weaving past into present. But the diary offered more than memories, it extended invitations. Each sentence seemed to reach out softly, guiding the reader deeper, drawing them into an invisible choreography where steps could not be seen but were still felt. The presence of the ballerina grew closer with every line, her silhouette beginning to take shape as if rising from the paper itself. At times it felt as if she might step directly from the diary into the moonlit room, her quiet figure glowing under the silver light, her breath carrying the echo of distant movement. Yet there was something else hidden within the lines: silence. Between one confession and the next, pauses emerged, spaces that spoke as loudly as the words themselves. These were breaths captured on paper, sighs written in ink. They reminded the reader that not everything must be revealed to be understood. There was a beauty in the unspoken, a gentle power in what was left veiled. The diary seemed to invite the imagination to fill these spaces, transforming each person who opened it into a co-creator of its meaning. Turning the pages was enough to stir a delicate shiver, not fear, but reverence. It felt like holding something sacred, a treasure that required care. Each phrase demanded silence, demanded attention, demanded respect. The diary carried the strange sensation of trust, as though whoever discovered it had been chosen for the task of protecting its essence. To read it was to accept responsibility, to cradle within oneself the secrets of a life once lived with quiet intensity. The room itself seemed to change as the diary was read. The light of the moon appeared to brighten, responding to the unveiling of its secrets, as if the heavens themselves approved of the words now awakened. The air thickened with memory, and time slowed into a rhythm that belonged only to that place. The outside world faded into nothing, leaving only the moment, suspended between what had been and what was now. The diary was no longer just a forgotten object, it had become a guardian of something timeless. It was like holding a reliquary. Every page acted as a key that unlocked secret doors to emotions too deep for ordinary expression. Solitude became beauty, vulnerability transformed into poetry, silence reimagined as music that required no sound. The diary was not simply memory, it was eternity, testimony, and promise all at once. With every line, the conviction grew stronger that its essence was still alive, breathing softly, waiting for someone willing to lose themselves within its embrace. And so, in the quiet of that moonlit room, the diary glowed with a subtle radiance of its own. It was not merely a book abandoned in a corner, it was a vault of feelings, a vessel of memory that resisted the erosion of time. It pulsed faintly, like a heart still beating beneath its cover, carrying within it the whispers of the ballerina who had written her life in secret. With every page turned, the truth became clearer: this was no ordinary diary. It was the transformation of life into art, fragility into eternity, night into immortal witness. It was a fragment of existence preserved forever, waiting in silence for the moment when its story would once again be heard. The diary, until then gentle in its descriptions of quiet nights and landscapes painted by moonlight, suddenly unveiled a confession that seemed to carry the weight of her entire existence. The ballerina could only dance when the world was asleep. It was not a whim, nor a conscious decision. It was as though the very essence of her art depended on the stillness of night, on the absence of witnesses, on the invisible bond between her and silence itself. Daytime brought noise, expectation, the weight of watchful eyes. Night, by contrast, was generous. It offered freedom, a chance to exist without masks, to move without walls, to turn emotion into gesture without fear of interruption. In her words lay the clarity of someone who understood that the waking world would never allow her to be who she truly was. The music guiding her steps did not come from instruments but from silence itself. Every absence of sound became a secret melody, every shadow became a stage, every breath of wind played like a sustained note in the air. The world slept, and in that collective slumber a vast space opened where she could finally breathe. For the ballerina, night was not absence, it was fullness. It was not emptiness, it was an invisible orchestra. It was not darkness, it was veiled light that only the sensitive could perceive. She confessed that during the day her body felt heavy, as though every muscle bore the burden of living in a world that did not belong to her. But when the last noise of the city faded away, something within her awakened. Her feet grew light, her heart found rhythm, her arms reached out toward something greater than herself. Movements came effortlessly, guided by a music that only she could hear. It was as though the universe itself, once it had fallen asleep, transformed into a sheet of music, handing her invisible notes that she translated into dance. In the diary, she described those nights as moments of reunion, not with an audience, not with expectation, but with herself. While the world slept, she became whole. Her lines revealed that solitude was not a burden but a refuge. In silence, she did not feel alone. She felt accompanied by the night, by the silver light of the moon, by the quiet murmur of trees. With every step, she drew closer to her truth. And paradoxically, the more isolated she appeared, the more connected she felt to everything around her. The secret, written with delicacy, read almost like a vow. I can only dance when no one watches me, because it is in the emptiness of eyes that I find the strength of my movements. There was no bitterness in her words, only acceptance. For her, anonymity was not a prison but a form of freedom. The secret was not a lament but a treasure, kept only for herself and for the moon. As she described this condition, the reader of the diary could almost feel the invisible music that carried her steps. Silence, so often feared, became melody. It was almost possible to hear the rhythm of her turns, the sliding of her feet across the floor, the measured breathing blending with the night's soft breath. The ballerina's secret revealed both her fragility and her greatness. She needed nothing external, only absence. And it was within that absence that her art bloomed, an art capable of touching eternity. The diary made it clear that there was no sadness in dancing only when the world was asleep. On the contrary, there was a sense of privilege. While others rested from their days, she discovered her reason to exist. It was as though she had been given a gift, a boundless stage built of silence and shadow, meant only for her. No theater, no matter how grand, could compare to the vastness of the night. No audience, no matter how attentive, could ever understand as deeply as the silent gaze of the moon. This first secret was revealed not as a burden but as liberation. By writing it down, the ballerina carved an unshakable truth. Her art did not depend on recognition but on authenticity. And authenticity could only exist when the world slept. Each night was a rebirth. Each silence, an invitation. Each shadow, an opportunity. And so, in those pages, was recorded the eternal pact between the ballerina and the night. A dance made possible only because the world, at last, rested. The ballerina's movements were described as wind gliding across the surface of water, soft yet inevitable, as if the very air were being shaped by her gestures. Each step was so delicate it seemed weightless, like autumn leaves drifting gently from a branch, surrendering themselves to the earth without haste, obeying only the secret rhythm of nature. There was an invisible cadence to her dance, something that could not be measured by clocks or marked by drums. It was a music born from silence, a melody so subtle it blended with the night's sighs. As she wrote, she explained how her body seemed to dissolve, no longer flesh but pure fluidity. The air around her appeared to respond to her every motion, moving with her, carried along as though she were its conductor. When she spun, the wind followed, lifting her skirt in slow waves, as if the stars themselves were holding their breath not to disturb the spectacle. Each breath she took blended into the breath of the night, until there was only one rhythm, uniting the dancer and the universe. Her feet touched the ground with the gentleness of feathers, leaving hardly a trace, as if they refused to disturb the earth that held her. With every glide she awakened the memory of the soil, reminding it of its silent eternity. The floor was not an obstacle but a companion. And in the diary, this truth was clear: I do not step upon the earth, I dance with it. It sustains me, and I return gratitude in every movement. These words revealed the intimacy of someone who saw in motion itself a communion with all things. Her breathing was slow, measured, blending seamlessly with the hidden sounds of the night. Anyone who dared imagine the scene could almost feel the air cooler, fresher, as though standing beside her, hearing the quiet intervals between inhale and exhale. Silence became music, not emptiness. And within that music, one could almost hear hidden notes: the soft brushing of her feet against the ground, the whisper of fabric as her skirt turned, the heartbeat keeping time with the moon. The diary described how her body dissolved into forms beyond the human. At times she felt like flowing water, moving without effort. At others, like a gentle flame, burning just enough to illuminate. On certain nights she was air, free and uncontainable. On others, earth itself, firm and rooted. Her dance was metamorphosis, element, transformation. Each movement was more than gesture, it was symbol. And within that symbolism, the reader found echoes of their own life, recognizing emotions they themselves had left unspoken. The sensory metaphors filled the diary so completely that reading it became a physical experience. It was as if one could hear sounds that were not there, sense fragrances that did not exist, touch textures invisible to the hand. Each line guided the body toward relaxation, the mind toward stillness, the heart toward calm rhythm. There was no resisting the atmosphere she created. The reader was led to believe they were witnessing something far deeper than dance. They were witnessing a dialogue between human and universe, written in steps that could never be repeated the same way twice. There were moments when she confessed to losing all notion of time. The sweep of an arm could last an eternity, and the blink of an eye could contain infinity. In those moments, she felt no boundaries between body and night, between earth and sky, between herself and the moon. Everything became a single motion, a shared breath, an eternal gesture suspended in air. And so, page after page, the ballerina transformed her movements into sensory poetry. The wind was her partner, the water her reflection, the ground her friend, the moon her witness. Her steps were leaves, her turns were waves, her silences were melodies. To read her descriptions was to plunge into an ocean of perceptions where every detail guided the mind toward rest, as though imagination itself lay down to sleep. In the end, the sensation her words left was one of complete lightness. As if, upon closing the eyes, one could feel the skin touched by gentle wind, the body cradled by silent music, the heart wrapped in peace. The ballerina's sensory description was not merely a record, it was an invitation. A call for each reader to surrender themselves to wind, to silence, to the hidden rhythm of the night. It was more than dance, it was a reminder that, deep down, all of us can find harmony when we allow ourselves to be guided by the invisible. In the pages of the diary, the moon appeared not merely as a distant witness, but as a true partner. She was not a passive star that happened to light the night, but an active presence shaping every gesture of the ballerina. Each ray of light descending from the sky was more than illumination. It became an invisible melody, a delicate note guiding her steps, a secret harmony filling the space around her. To the ballerina, the moon was more than company. She was the silent conductor of her dance, the unseen maestro of a performance only the stars dared to watch. The silver light spread like a veil across her body, highlighting her contours, softening the shadows, making her seem less human and more a creature of radiance. There were nights when she felt part of the moon itself, as though she were an extension of its glow, every movement a reflection of the brightness pouring from the sky. At other times, it felt like dialogue. She moved, and the moon responded, brightening or softening its light, a quiet exchange of complicity. The diary explained that without the moon, her dance could not exist. The sun, with its force, felt too heavy, overwhelming, too demanding. Artificial lights were cold, lacking warmth for the soul. Only the moon carried the perfect balance of mystery and tenderness. Only her presence could surround without hurting, illuminate without blinding, accompany without demanding. "The moon understands me," the ballerina wrote. "She asks for nothing but my surrender, and in return she gives me a stage, a song, and peace." Every lunar phase brought a different experience. Under the full moon, her movements grew expansive, her gestures wide and radiant, her body filled with energy. In waning moonlight, she turned inward, her motions smaller, her dances introspective, like intimate conversations with herself. The waxing moon brought hope, steps that rose, spins that reached upward toward the future. And during the new moon, when darkness prevailed, the ballerina danced with her eyes closed, trusting that even the absence of light was a kind of guidance. The power of the moon was not only in illuminating physical space, but in awakening states of the soul. It calmed her breath, set the invisible tempo, transformed silence into music. Each ray seemed to touch not just her skin but her heart, reminding her that she was never alone. There was always a greater presence, a gaze patient and unyielding, watching with infinite care. In her descriptions, the ballerina sometimes claimed it was not she who danced, but the moon through her. Her arms were extensions of its beams, her legs reflections of movements written in the sky. When she spun, she believed she mirrored the eternal cycles the moon performed in the heavens. When she bent, she imagined herself bowing before a greater mystery, surrendering to the quiet power that descended upon her. The atmosphere painted in the diary was one of reverence. The moon emerged as a discreet divinity, asking for no worship, inspiring only surrender. There was no fear, only gratitude. The moon's power did not lie in domination but in liberation. She offered the stage, the light, the silence, so that the ballerina could discover herself. It was as if the entire night had been choreographed to cradle her movements, and the moon, steadfast and constant, was the perfect partner to share that secret. The reader, when imagining the scene, could almost feel the light brushing through the air, could almost hear the invisible melody filling the space between her steps. The moon ceased to be a distant star and became an intimate companion. Its glow, always soft, became the translation of a silent affection, of an ancient friendship needing no words. The dance of the ballerina and the light of the moon blended until one could no longer tell where one ended and the other began. And so, with each night recorded, the idea grew stronger that the performance was neither wholly human nor celestial, but a fusion of both. It was the meeting of a young woman's fragility with the eternity of a star, the union of fleeting steps with unchanging cycles. The moon's power was in making the dance infinite, even when the body tired. It was in turning solitude into partnership, silence into song, darkness into stage. In the end, the diary made it clear the ballerina would never have danced at all if the moon had not offered its light. And perhaps that was the greatest secret: the dance was never hers alone. It was an eternal dialogue between creature and creation, between mortal and infinite. A reminder that in the night, no one is ever truly alone, for there will always be a moon, patient and serene, turning silence into melody and steps into eternity. Between the silent pages of the diary, hidden among descriptions of the night and whispered confidences to the moon, there was also a secret wish. It was not shouted, not written in haste or desperation, but breathed softly onto the paper, as if the ink itself feared being too bold. The ballerina dreamed that, one day, someone might see her dance and feel the same enchantment she felt while moving. She did not crave fame, she did not long for applause, she did not seek recognition. It was something far more delicate, something deeper, the longing to share the invisible, to allow another soul to touch the same silent music that carried her steps. She wrote that dance, though it was her sanctuary, sometimes became a heavy secret. The silence of the night embraced her, but it also kept her apart. And within that chosen solitude grew the desire that perhaps, someday, there might be a witness. Not a crowd, not noisy theaters, but a single gaze capable of understanding. A heart willing to feel not only the visible gestures but the hidden breath between turns, the quiet tremor between movements, the confession embedded in each step. This longing was described as a fragile flame that never faded. The ballerina feared that if she exposed her dance beneath the harsh light of day, the magic would shatter like glass. Yet at the same time she imagined the beauty of sharing what was most sacred to her. Her words carried tenderness, as if dancing were her way of loving, and keeping that love only to herself was also a source of longing. She dreamed of the moment when, somewhere, someone might recognize that every step was a prayer, every gesture a confession, every movement an offering of her soul. At one point she confessed, "If someone could see what I feel when I dance, they would understand that I do not seek applause, but connection. I do not want to be remembered as a ballerina, but as a spirit who gave herself completely to each instant of the night." These lines revealed a longing not for external praise but for inner resonance. What she desired was not admiration but understanding, not to be celebrated, but to be felt. The diary showed how this yearning carried both vulnerability and courage. Vulnerability, because opening her dance to another gaze would be like exposing her heart without protection. Courage, because she believed that even if revealed, her art would remain pure. She did not seek technical perfection, but truth. And truth did not require a grand stage, it required only one attentive gaze, one heart able to see beyond form and into essence. There was also a hidden plea in her words, almost as if she asked the moon to be her messenger. "Carry my dance to someone," she seemed to write. "Let my movements reach hearts I do not yet know." It was not directed at any particular audience, but cast gently into the universe, entrusted like a prayer to the stars, with the hope that one night fate might grant her a witness. She described how she imagined the scene: someone walking alone beneath the quiet sky, pausing suddenly upon noticing a solitary figure moving beneath the moon. That passerby, anonymous and unexpected, would stop in silence, even forget to breathe, only to absorb the poetry of the moment. No words would be spoken, no approach required. To witness would be enough. To feel would be enough. And that would be the greatest gift she could ever receive, proof that her dance could awaken in another the same enchantment that blossomed within her. This secret wish was not marked by anxiety, but by gentle hope. It was like a seed planted in the heart, not rushed to grow, but alive and patient, waiting for the right season. The ballerina accepted that perhaps no one would ever see her. Still, she continued to dance, because dancing was as essential to her as breathing. The wish was not her reason for moving, but it was a quiet dream, a gift she trusted the night to keep until the day it might unfold. For the reader of the diary, that wish became almost tangible. Each line carried the sense that they themselves were invited to be the witness she longed for. The pages became a stage, and before the reader's eyes her figure appeared, spinning beneath the moonlight. Each word became a step preserved in ink, each sentence a gesture written for eternity. And in that moment, her secret wish was fulfilled. Someone, across time and silence, was touched by her unseen dance. This realization gave the diary even greater weight. It was no longer merely an intimate record but a bridge between worlds, a connection between solitude and company, between longing and presence. Each page reminded the reader that the most authentic desires do not need to be shouted to exist. Sometimes it is enough to whisper them, to entrust them to the night, to write them softly on fragile paper. And so even the most secret dreams find their way toward fulfillment. Her wish remained as a delicate thread weaving through her story. There was no sorrow in keeping it hidden, there was tenderness, there was faith. And that faith was enough to keep her dancing, night after night. For deep down she knew, she was never truly alone. The moon was always there, patient and watchful, silent witness to every movement. And if the moon saw her, then perhaps, one day, someone else would see her too. Each dawn, when the world seemed to rest in its own breathing, the ballerina shed the pains of the day and surrendered herself to silence. It was as though every noise endured, every shadow faced, every burden carried during the daylight hours dissolved the instant her feet touched the cool floor of the night. Dancing beneath the moon was not simply art, nor mere habit, it was refuge, it was prayer, it was her way of existing. Each movement became an act of release, a shedding of what held her, a return to the essence of who she truly was. The diary described in detail the transition between day and night. During the hours of sunlight, her soul seemed wrapped in invisible veils, suffocated by demands, expectations, and voices that weighed upon her. But when darkness descended, those veils fell away one by one, revealing her purest core. Dance then emerged as a ritual of purification. As her body moved, she felt memories shift, pains loosen, unrest dissolve. She needed no words beyond those written in the diary. Her steps were silent confessions, prayers unspoken yet understood by the universe itself. She wrote that her surrender to the moment was complete. There was no rehearsal, no plan. Each night was different, each dance unique. Arms lifted because they had to, spins came because her heart urged them, breaths stretched long because that was how peace entered her body. I do not dance to repeat gestures, she confessed, I dance to free myself from them. I dance to dissolve until nothing remains but the now. The present became her temple. While dancing, she thought neither of what was lost nor of what might come. Time ceased to exist as a line and became an expanded instant. Each step was eternity. Each silence between movements was deeper than any word. In surrendering to the moment, the ballerina discovered there was no failure and no glory, only truth. And that truth revealed itself in each curve, in each gesture, in every glance she lifted to the sky. The diary recorded the physical sensation of this surrender. She described how her body felt light, almost transparent, as if made of breeze. She wrote of the stillness that overtook her mind, heavy thoughts evaporating in the gentle rhythm of her movements. It was as though each gesture were a key unlocking hidden doors, releasing buried emotions, dissolving old pains. Surrendering to the moment was not only artistic, it was healing. On nights of greater intensity, she felt there was no separation between body, ground, and moon. It was as if she were made of the same matter as the night, inseparable from a greater whole. In those hours she wrote that she needed no audience, no witness, because surrender itself was enough. There was no need for eyes upon her when the fullness of her being was already complete in the embrace of the present. Yet there was a paradoxical beauty in this act. Though she danced alone, she never felt isolated. It was in surrendering to the night that she found communion with everything. Each leaf stirred by the wind seemed to accompany her. Each star flickering above became her confidant. The silence of dawn was no emptiness but an invisible choir carrying her gestures. To surrender to the moment was, therefore, to open herself to the entire world, to allow life to move through her without resistance. The diary also described the peace that followed each dance. Her body, weary, would rest upon the ground, but her spirit felt weightless, as if it had floated away. It was not the rest of sleep but of meaning rediscovered. In those moments she wrote that she could vanish without fear, for she had already lived fully in every surrendered instant. It does not matter how long the night lasts, she once wrote. What matters is that, in every second, I am whole. This surrender was also an act of resistance. In a world demanding roles, masks, and daily performances, her nocturnal dance was a silent refusal to lose herself. It was a gentle protest against noise, against haste, against indifference. By dancing beneath the moon, she affirmed, "Here I am. This is my being. This is my moment." And no one could take it away. In the end, surrendering to the moment transformed each dawn into a private eternity. It did not matter if her body ached or her days were heavy. As long as there was silence and moonlight, there would be dance. And as long as there was dance, there would be life. Within the diary, among pages already filled with metaphors, memories, and secrets, rested the most intimate confession of all. It was as though every word written before had been preparing the way for this moment, as if all previous entries were rehearsals of courage for what she was finally ready to reveal. In delicate strokes, almost trembling, the ballerina wrote, "If these are to be my last pages, may the moon continue to dance with me, even when I am no longer here." This phrase did not arrive as a sorrowful farewell, but as serene acceptance. The diary showed she did not fear the end. On the contrary, she seemed to meet it with the same grace with which she surrendered to each dawn. For the ballerina, life was not measured in years but in moments of surrender. And if one day there were no more steps left to take, may her dance remain reflected in the moon, preserved in the silence of the night, etched into the wind as an eternal memory. She described that every movement she performed was more than a fleeting gesture, it was an invisible imprint left behind in the air. The moon, her companion through countless nights, would become the guardian of this legacy. As long as moonlight remained, as long as the sky stretched above, as long as someone lifted their eyes to the night, her dance would still exist, reborn in silver radiance. "I do not need remembrance in human hearts," she wrote. "It is enough if the moon keeps my lines, if the wind repeats my steps, if the night refuses to forget me." The final lines carried a different weight, holding a silence deeper than anything found in the earlier pages. The reader felt they had reached a threshold, a place from which there was no return. The ballerina knew time might no longer be hers, yet she trusted that eternity had been secured within her words. To her, writing was also a form of dancing, and to dance was to inscribe upon the unseen something that could never be erased. The diary revealed too that the ballerina did not view death as absence, but as transformation. In her last words she expressed that if she were no longer present, it would not mean an end but a passage. Her essence would continue to move with the stars, to spin with the universe, to breathe in rhythm with the night. "The body may grow still," she wrote, "but dance is made of something that never ends." These closing sentences had the strength of a testament, though they carried no burden of obligation. They were more like a gentle song released to the wind, meant to be repeated endlessly. There was no fear, no despair. There was only gratitude and trust. The ballerina seemed certain that even if no eyes remained to see her, the moon would remain faithful, an unwavering partner, replaying their shared choreography night after night. Imagining the scene she described, one could picture the diary left open, bathed in a single beam of moonlight that seemed destined for that page alone. The words shone faintly, as if written not only in ink but also in light. And around them, silence was not emptiness but reverence. It was as though the universe itself had paused to hear the final confession of a soul that had always spoken most truly in movement rather than words. The impact of those lines was heightened by contrast. Up to that point, the diary had been a place of discoveries, of secrets, of dreams. But here, it transformed into farewell. Yet not a bitter one, rather sweet, calm, almost luminous. It was as if the ballerina had reached the climax of her own story and could finally rest. And still, tenderness filled every phrase. In wishing that the moon continue to dance with her, she was not asking for immortality of her name, but for continuity of the dance itself. She did not seek to be remembered in identity, but through movement and light. It was as though she whispered, "I may pass, but the dance will remain." And by writing it, she left behind the greatest of legacies, the certainty that what is true never truly disappears. For the reader, reaching these lines was like witnessing the extinguishing of a candle that, in its final glow, shone brighter than ever before. There was rare beauty in realizing that one could depart with such peace. The diary did not end in despair, but in promise, the promise that the ballerina's dance would continue to echo, even without a body, even without a stage, even without an audience. Thus, the final confession was not an ending but an opening. It was a key given to the wind, a seed cast into time. Whoever read understood that upon closing the diary, the story did not conclude. It transformed into living silence, into memory that never fades, into music that resonates within every heart willing to listen. In the end, the last written lines were not a full stop but an ellipsis. The ballerina departed, yet left an invitation for the moon, the wind, and the reader to keep dancing with her. And in that simple yet grand gesture, she ensured her existence would never be forgotten. For as long as there is night, as long as there is moonlight, there will always remain the memory of her steps etched forever in the heart of the world. There were no explanations. The final pages of the diary offered no justifications, no answers, no certainty. Only soft words, like veils of mist dissolving at the gentlest breath of wind. It was as if the ballerina had dissolved her very existence into the steps of her dance, leaving the reader not with the weight of an ending, but with the delicacy of a mystery. There was no direct farewell, no letter of goodbye. There was only the impression that every gesture danced beneath the moon had already contained, within itself, the essence of a quiet departure. The diary described those last instants as absolute silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the kind that speaks for itself, that carries hidden meanings. The entries became shorter, fragmented, as though full sentences were no longer necessary. A sigh was enough, a glance, a scattered metaphor. The mystery rested precisely in what was left unsaid, in what lingered between one paragraph and the next, like invisible notes from an unfinished song. Her farewell did not come with pain but with sweetness. It was almost like a tranquil fading, like moonlight slowly vanishing before dawn. The diary revealed that the ballerina was not bidding farewell to the world, but surrendering herself to it in another form. She dissolved into the night, became part of the wind, turned into diffused radiance. There was no absence, there was transformation. Reading these pages, the heart was overcome with an unusual sensation, longing and serenity at once. Longing for something that felt distant even without ever being witnessed. Serenity in perceiving that the ballerina seemed to have found peace in her final surrender. The mystery lay in the contrast between what disappeared and what remained. Her body might no longer be there, but her dance, etched into the invisible, continued to echo. The diary left subtle signs that she understood the fleeting nature of life. In one passage she wrote, "Every step I take is also a goodbye." In another, "Dance is my way of leaving without leaving." Taken alone, such phrases could appear melancholic, but together they revealed something larger. That life itself was a continuous farewell, and dancing was the transformation of each farewell into beauty. The mystery of farewell also revealed itself in the way the words seemed to fade. The last paragraphs were lighter, thinner, almost transparent. It was as if the diary itself wished to empty alongside her, as though the very pages understood they were approaching their end. The reader realized there were no rigid conclusions, only openings. Silence became part of the text, inviting each one to feel, to imagine, to complete with their own heart what was left unwritten. This subtlety gave the final pages their strength. The ballerina left no declarations, no absolutes. She left questions, and in the questions, beauty. She left space for every reader to discover their own farewell within hers. And in that way, her absence became constant presence, for she lived on in the questions, in the echoes, in the images her words awakened. Within this mystery there was a kind of silent promise. Not the promise of return, but the certainty of continuity in another form. Like the moon, which hides and reappears. Like the wind, which departs but never truly disappears. Like music, which falls silent but continues to resonate in those who have heard it. The mystery of farewell was not emptiness, it was hidden continuity, secret permanence. At the final page, the reader found no full stop but invisible ellipses. There was no sharp rupture, only transition. It was like crossing a bridge made of mist, unable to see the other side, yet sensing it must exist. The diary did not end, it simply became living silence, breathing memory, a dance continuing even when unseen. In the end, the mystery of farewell became perhaps her greatest work. For by not explaining, by not concluding, by not justifying, the ballerina left the world with what she had always sought to share, enchantment. Her departure was not absence but invitation. An invitation to continue dancing with her in the silence of night, in the glow of the moon, in the breath of the wind. And thus, even without explanations, she remained whole. For there are farewells that never end, they only transform into eternity. Whoever reads these pages never forgets them. Not because they reveal great external truths or final answers, but because they awaken a hidden memory that lives within each of us. It is as though, by following the ballerina's words, we are guided into a sleeping place inside our memory, where we have all once danced in silence beneath the moon. Perhaps not with our feet, perhaps not with visible gestures, but in thoughts, in feelings, in intimate moments when the heart moved unseen. The diary conveyed this sense of eternity not through what it declared, but through what it stirred in the reader. Each phrase seemed to echo beyond itself, like the beginning of a melody continuing long after the page was turned. There was something in her descriptions of the night, in her secrets shared with the moon, that felt universal. One could not help but recognize fragments of themselves in her words. She wrote about her own life, yet she revealed the hidden lives of everyone. This feeling arose because her dance, though uniquely hers, became a metaphor for existence. Who has not sought refuge in silence? Who has not found peace in a solitary instant? Who has not lifted their eyes to the night sky and felt they were speaking to the moon? In reading, the reader was reminded that these small, quiet experiences are what make us human. Eternity was not revealed in grand acts, but in silent memories carried by all. The diary showed that the ballerina's dance was not confined to the body performing it. It was something greater, reaching beyond her. Each step described carried a sense of eternity precisely because it was not hers alone. It belonged to anyone who had felt their soul move without reason, to all who had found beauty in stillness, to all who had surrendered themselves to a starry night in search of solace. Within the pages she wrote, "I do not dance only for myself. I dance for the silence that has lived in every heart." This line captured the breadth of her surrender. The dance was personal, yet collective, intimate, yet universal. For the reader, this meant no longer being a spectator, but a participant. It was as though, in some way, they too were dancing with her, without rising from a chair, without moving their feet, but simply by allowing their spirit to join her. The sense of eternity also came from the diary's refusal to close itself with limits. There were no rigid conclusions, only open images waiting to be continued inside each person. What looked like an ending became a beginning. What seemed like farewell became reunion. Each reading felt new, because the words reshaped themselves in the heart of whoever received them. It was like a dance that could never be performed the same way twice. This openness gave the pages rare strength. It was impossible to read them without being moved. And even when the book was shut, something lingered. A quiet echo, a silent melody, an impression returning in unexpected moments. Perhaps when seeing the moon. Perhaps when feeling the wind through a window. Perhaps when remembering a night when silence spoke more than words. The diary embedded itself into the reader's life, engraving the certainty that beauty does not vanish, it only changes form. There was also something precious. The ballerina did not speak of eternity as distant or unreachable. She found it in the present. In every breath, in every gesture, in every night surrendered to silence, she discovered the eternity she sought. By sharing this, she reminded us that we do not need to wait for the future or conquer time to feel it. Eternity is in the moments when we are whole, when we truly connect with what surrounds us. In the end, the reader understood that the feeling of eternity was not a promise of immortality, but an experience of presence. Following the ballerina, they realized that living is to dance within time as if it were infinite, even while knowing it is brief. It is allowing each instant to carry the weight of eternity because it is lived in fullness. Her dance became memory and invitation, for each of us to find our own way of dancing in silence beneath the moon. And that is why these pages are never forgotten. Because in some way, we have all been there. We have all surrendered to the mystery of the night, all spoken silently to the moon, all felt our hearts dance without music. In recognizing this, the reader discovers that eternity is not outside but within. And the ballerina, in her simplicity, only reminds us of what we already knew but had forgotten. Now, imagine yourself dancing too. There is no audience, no hurry, no expectation. Only you and the moon, in silence, within a space that seems to have no borders. The body moves light, free, as though guided by a melody that does not need to be heard to be felt. With each step, with each gesture, the weight of the days begins to dissolve. Worries fade, thoughts grow quiet, and the present moment opens like a tranquil refuge. Let this image soothe your thoughts. Breathe deeply and feel, with every inhalation, that the moon is pouring serene light upon you. Breath becomes rhythm, and the heart, an instrument playing softly in harmony with the night. There is no effort needed, the movement rises by itself, naturally, as though it had always been there, waiting patiently to bloom. The dance asks for no perfection. There is no right or wrong, no imposed rhythm. There is only surrender. As you move, you connect with the moon, with the wind, with the silence that enfolds everything. Each gesture feels like an answer to an invisible call, as if the universe itself were inviting you to let go. Gradually, the boundaries between body and night disappear. You are no longer someone who dances, you are the dance itself. Calm spreads like gentle waves. Each step is also a rest, each turn is also a rebirth. Time dissolves, becoming only the present instant. And in that instant, you realize there is nothing to seek beyond what is already here. Serenity is not distant, it lives within you, waiting to be remembered. All it asks is surrender, all it requires is permission to feel. This surrender is reconciliation. With yourself, with the days that have passed, with the dreams still waiting. To dance with the moon is to accept that peace is always available. It does not need to be literal. The dance may happen inside you, in your thoughts, in your emotions, in the simple act of closing your eyes and imagining movement. It is in this space that true freedom dwells, the freedom to be nothing more than what you already are. As you dance in your imagination, you notice that the moon is not far. It watches, silent, but not as a distant witness. It is a partner. Its rays wrap around you like arms of light, accompanying each gesture. And the wind, subtle and discreet, becomes an invisible melody carrying the rhythm. It is a silent dialogue between you and the universe, no words, only presence. With each passing moment, the mind becomes lighter. Thoughts that once stirred now rest. There is no rush, no demand, no noise. Only a continuous flow of softness, like calm waters caressing the heart. You feel whole, present, serene. And in this state, you discover that nothing needs to be controlled. You need only allow. You need only be. This image lingers like a good dream that does not need to end. The dance continues even as you lie down. It continues when you close your eyes. It continues as sleep gently arrives. For this is not a dance meant to be seen, but one meant to be felt. It is memory and promise. Whenever you need, you can return to this space. Whenever the world feels heavy, you may imagine yourself there, light, free, beneath the moon. In the silence that follows, there is gratitude. Gratitude for the calm that arises, gratitude for the night that embraces, gratitude for the life that breathes. Each imagined gesture is also a thank you. And this gratitude opens the way for even deeper serenity. The moon smiles with its quiet glow, the wind stirs with its gentleness, and you rest knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. Now, allow yourself to rest. Let your body find comfort, let your eyes close slowly, let your heart follow its tranquil rhythm. There is nothing to do, nothing to solve, nothing to fear. Only the moment. Only the calm. Only you and the moon, dancing silently in the infinite. And in that gentle dance, eternity reveals itself in peace. Take a deep breath. Inhale and slowly exhale. Allow the air to flow in and out like gentle waves, rocking your body into calm. With each inhalation, you welcome serenity. With each exhalation, you release hidden tensions. There is no rush, no effort. Only a natural flow, a quiet rhythm settling inside you. Imagine that each word reaching you now is also a breath of peace, spreading lightness through every part of your being. Inhale once more, feel the air traveling softly into your lungs, like a stream of light glowing within. Exhale, and notice how each muscle loosens a little more, surrendering to rest. Breathing becomes a bridge between body and mind, connecting you to a space of profound tranquility. Slowly, everything around you seems distant, unimportant. There is only you, your breath, and the growing silence. With every cycle of air, imagine a weight dissolving. Inhale, and the coolness of the night surrounds you. Exhale, and let worries vanish like dust carried away by the wind. Feel your body lighter, as though floating. Shoulders release. Chest opens. Face softens. Even your thoughts begin to slow, as if obeying the gentle melody now rocking your mind. Each word acts like a tender touch. It feels as though an invisible hand rests upon you, reminding you that you are safe, cared for, protected. Inhale, exhale, allow yourself to trust this moment. There is nothing you must do, nothing demanding your attention. Time can wait. Now, your only commitment is to rest. Imagine with each breath a thread of light traveling through your body. It begins at the top of your head, moving gently down your face, your neck, your shoulders. This thread of light flows smoothly, dissolving tension, loosening invisible knots. It continues through your arms, your hands, gliding like silent music. It moves down through your chest, your abdomen, your legs, until it reaches your feet. And when it does, you feel whole, light, completely surrendered to rest. This thread of light is like the moon itself, dancing with you. It follows each inhalation, each exhalation, pouring serenity upon you. It is as if the entire universe has paused, just to care for your rest. Breathe, release, allow your body to settle into this calm rhythm. Sleep is already approaching, discreet, patient, ready to embrace you. With every breath, the mind grows quieter. Thoughts that once demanded attention now drift like clouds moving slowly across the horizon. There is no need to resist them. Simply let them come, and let them go. You remain at the center, still as a quiet lake, observing only the flow of peace. Now, imagine yourself again beneath the moon. The body dances, but it is a dance so light it feels made only of breath. Inhale, exhale, each invisible movement cradles your being. There is no longer separation between the one who breathes and the air, between the one who rests and the night. Everything becomes unity, silence, gentle eternity. Feel that you are ready for the deepest rest. Muscles loosened, mind calm, heart steady. You may simply surrender. Sleep does not need to be forced, it arrives like a quiet visitor, carrying comfort. Stay with this rhythm, breathing slowly, allowing your body to be rocked like a child held in the arms of the universe. And so, in this state of surrender, each breath is also a promise of rest, a promise of renewal, a promise of peace. You are safe, you are calm, you are ready to drift into the sweetest sleep. Inhale, exhale, and allow yourself to slip gently into slumber, as the moon continues to dance beside you, guarding your dreams until morning arrives. If this story has cradled your sleep and brought serenity to your heart, let this moment continue beyond tonight. Subscribe to the channel and step into a universe of bedtime stories created to calm your mind, release the weight of the day, and guide you toward the deepest rest. Each new story is an invitation to slow down, to breathe, and to find peace within yourself. Leave a like so that YouTube knows stories like this deserve to reach more people, transforming restless nights into nights of renewal. Every gesture of support helps keep this sanctuary alive, making it possible for new stories to be told, always with care and dedication, always ready to accompany you in your moments of rest. Share this video with someone special who may also need peace tonight. It could be a friend who feels weary, a loved one facing challenging days, or simply someone, like you, seeking a gentle refuge before sleep. By sharing, you are not only spreading serenity but also reminding others that they are never alone in their search for rest. Here, stories like this will always be waiting for you. There will always be a tale ready to guide your breathing, a soft narrative to cradle your thoughts, a gentle whisper leading you into sleep. This channel is your safe haven, your shelter when the world feels heavy, a reminder that even in the quietest nights there is beauty and companionship. So, whenever you need, come back. Press play, close your eyes, and allow yourself to be carried once more. The universe of bedtime stories is endless, and you are already a part of it. Subscribe, like, share, but above all, allow yourself to rest. For this is your moment, your sanctuary, and stories like this will always be here, waiting for you.